Alan here at Six Silver Seals, welcoming you as always to another Tarot Tuesday. This one is a little special though. To all of my viewers who celebrate it, happy Mabon. The fall equinox is finally here. The change of the seasons begins in earnest now, as today is the day where light and dark will be equal as we move to the dark half of the year, when the nights will be longer than the days. At least, that's the case here in the northern hemisphere. For everyone, however, the sun will be moving into Libra today. Before I get ahead of myself, this is the reading for the week that begins on the 22nd of September, 2020. So, for the sun in Libra, we have the sun and justice. And this comes as no shock to anyone, I'm sure. This will be a season with which we are greatly, greatly concerned with the idea of fairness and of equality and of justice as, the ideal. Particularly, though, what I want to talk about with this one, because it's kind of meaningful, is that we have a lot of things going on in cardinal signs right now. Specifically, what we are dealing with is that Libra will now be playing host to the sun. Mercury has also been here for a little bit by now, but you also have retrograde Mars in Aries, which is opposite Libra. And then you have, obviously, Saturn and Jupiter and Pluto getting close to the end of all their time in Capricorn. And ordinarily, all of these squares and oppositions would be rough to deal with, but the thing is that they're all happening at once, and so what we have to be mindful of, while we must be mindful that these things will be very difficult, that we're going through a very trying time, is that they also form an aspect configuration. They form the T-square. And so specifically, as we get concerned deeply with this notion of what is fair and what is just and what is right, a lot of anger and negative emotional energy will also be present around this subject, especially as we begin to see the truth of the outer planets in Capricorn and the things that underpin our society. I talk about this a little bit in the Night Sky newsletter for those of you who subscribe, who are subscribers through Patreon. Retrograde Mercury, when it comes in October, is going to come in Scorpio and really start bringing these things to light. It is going to be kind of a wild ride. However, this is ultimately to the good. The truth outs, but with the truth comes the first steps towards, again, achieving the ideal of fairness, of justice, of equity. We're getting there. The work is hard, the road is long, but we will get there. So bearing that in mind, obviously, this is valid for the next week, but this is really going to be like the initiation of projects that are going to last the entire time the sun is in Libra, because it will make its very last aspect to Saturn in Capricorn during this time. And then, obviously, Saturn is very soon getting ready to return to Aquarius for the second time now, since it retrograded back over the line. But in the meantime, like I say, this is the start of a project. This is going to last for the whole sun in Libra, which is where we'll begin. And Libra has the Hanged Man. And so, a little bit of what I've been talking about with the aspect, with the move of the sun into your sign, Librans, is that, again, we're going to be looking at the ideals of fairness, justice, and equality, and for you, that means learning to look at it from a whole new angle. Taking a completely different approach to what it means for you to pursue these ideals. What is really fair? What is really just? What is really equal? Or, put another way, could you benefit from interpreting those in a different way than you usually do or than you're accustomed to doing. For Scorpio, we have the Eight of Pentacles. And again, we're talking here about the notion of long, hard work. And that's going to be especially true for you, Scorpio, because not only, is all of this going down in the cardinal sign, which is your neighbor, but as I alluded to in the aspect, retrograde Mercury is also going to be happening at some point during this time, and really carrying these things over into when the sun moves into your sun sign. So for you, this is just the beginning of something that's going to evolve before it ends. Of us all, Scorpio suns, you have the longest work ahead, just by virtue of the fact that the sun is going to be barreling into your sign with all of this energy, and the retrograde Mercury, which will eventually slide back into Libra to get you some relief, won't help in the intervening time. Just because a project is long and difficult does not mean it is not worth doing, and as a collective, we have shrunk far too long from doing the thing that is hard. Sagittarius has the Knight of Swords, which, given the subject at hand, is no less than I would expect, charging boldly in to take on the problem. I would expect that from any fire sign, really, but especially either from my own, which is Aries, or from Sagittarius. Perfectly fine to leap. Please at least give where you're leaping a cursory glance before you do so, is my only warning. And in fact, this would be a good time to scout the field ahead. We are now only 2 seasons away from yours, and 2020 has been a year of the sun moving through one's own sun sign, making a year of solar returns much more difficult than they would be normally, with all the other things that have been going on. So this is a chance for you to, if you're going to be the one to right the ship and turn things around, great, but this is a chance for you to batten down the hatches in the meantime so that you can do it successfully. For Capricorn, we have Death, the card of Scorpio. And I'm really not surprised to see transformation and the Phoenix as a theme for you, given that you are going to be the focal point of this T-square rounding off the opposition between the Sun and Mars. Again, all of the outer planets have just recently done a pass through your sign. 2, if not 3 of them are getting ready to leave it very, very shortly. And so, the world has changed, but so have you. This much passage of high vibration energy through your sun sign, and therefore through you, Capricorn, has been it may be difficult for you to look in the mirror and recognize the person that you see. That may be very, very tough for you. But you survived. Part of the lesson for this, then, is that when you have to fight for so long, eventually you become pretty good at fighting back. And I think that's sort of what you're meant to pick up on here, Capricorn. You've changed, but how drastically? For Aquarius, we have the Seven of Cups. And Aquarius, with the Seven of Cups here, what I get the feeling is that there is an option for you that is not actually an option, although it presents itself as one. And specifically with it being the Seven of Cups, the option that is presenting itself, I feel like, is the option of not caring. But with the sun in a sign that is trying to your own because it shares the element, this is also a period of power for you. And remember that you are the rebel. You are the iconoclast. You are the water bearer. You wash the old away to make room for the new. If you've been tempted not to, the collective really needs you to buy in, Aquarius. It needs all of us to do that, but this is specifically the lesson for the week that I'm getting for you. If you've been tempted to just let what is be, please do not. For Pisces, we have the Magician. What the Magician tells me for you, Pisces, is that whatever you've wanted to shape your world into, now is the time. Remember that the Magician represents someone with all the tools at their disposal, right? They're capable of doing anything that they put their mind to. Now is the time. However you want your world to look, Pisces, this is the time to start building. This is the time to start putting things in place so that when the rest of the chips fall, you're ready. As things begin to settle into the shape that they're going to take, you will be prepared to make the moves that you need to make. You need to lay the foundations for that now. For Aries, we have the King of Wands. This is going to be a period under which Aries suns will want to rein in the both passion and instinct, right? The inner fire and the drive to get things done is going to need to be directed and very carefully controlled. Personally, I don't know if I can speak for all Aries suns, but I will say that I have noticed strange either highs and lows of energy, but no real like middle ground. There are not days where I'm just like, I feel okay. Either I'm ready to go or I'm totally drained, and there's no in between. And while Mars is retrograde and all the rest of these things are going on, especially now that the sun has entered Libra, it's going to be very important for those of us feeling this way to get a hold on that, to make ourselves get things done on the days where we don't feel up to it, and to slow ourselves down on the days where we're trying to do 1,000 things at the same time. But this is about mastering the passions and mastering the instincts and getting a hold of ourselves. And really, here, the opposite number is the one we want to lean on. We want to lean on the air. We want to lean on a more intellectual way of approaching things rather than just reacting on instinct and just reacting for the sake of getting it done quickly. We need to take time to think it through. For Taurus, we have the Two of Pentacles. With the Two of Pentacles, decisions need to be made here, Taurus. It isn't just that you're juggling anymore. It's weighing two options here in tandem with justice, with Libra. It's not a balancing act. This is which of these do I keep and which do I toss aside? You are, for my Taurus nerds out there, you are at the part of Pokemon where you have to decide whether you want Ammonite or Kabuto, even though you won't get it for like 7 more cities. The presence of justice here turns this almost into a Two of Swords. You've been trying to keep two things going at the same time, two things that you now realize rely on the same center post for their support, and you really, really only need one. You should toss the other aside. And it is time to stop trying to juggle something that can't be balanced. For Gemini, we have the Five of Swords. I feel like I pulled this a lot for you lately, Gemini. But this is definitely not the first time we've seen the Five of Swords in a Tarot Tuesday video recently. And again, it's this card of no-win situations, which is honestly, or victories that cost more than they earn, all of which feels kind of strange for a week and a month where the sun is gonna be in your element and trying to you. This should be good for you, but I feel like in order for both Libra and Aquarius to get what they're getting out of it, it almost feels like the energy is doing this at your expense. Which is not saying that the universe consciously picks on anybody, right? But just that You cannot cut off your nose to spite your face. That's really what the Five of Swords feels like to me for you, Gemini, is that you're only going in the long run to hurt yourself by doing that. It's not anybody else's nose. It's not anybody else's face. You are dealing most directly, actually, of the three parts of the T square that the Sun in Libra is now making. Really, the primary one is that Mars retrograde a couple signs over in Aries that's the closest to you. And it kind of feels like you're also getting some blowback from that, which, considering the position that Mercury is very shortly going to be in as it prepares to move into Scorpio and go retrograde, makes sense. Mars co-rules Scorpio. This is a warning, Gemini, not to get embroiled in fights that don't clearly reward you for the, or not, maybe not necessarily fights, but situations that don't clearly reward you with something adequate for the amount of energy that they will take. If you get involved in those now, they're going to come back to haunt you in a matter of weeks when Mercury finally goes retrograde in Scorpio. Choose your battles carefully. For Cancer, we have the Hierophant, which is the card of your close cousin Taurus, 2 signs over. And it's really no surprise to me that the most maternal sign of the zodiac ends up with this in a time of changes with the card of traditions and of the status quo, because really what this is after with you and the aspects that are around is that you need to be the rock, Cancer. The thing that doesn't change, the eye of the hurricane. Is the feeling that I get from this. You need to be the constant in all the inconstancy. And this is not necessarily in service to others, although with Libra's influence that would be part of it, ruling the 7th house as it does with one-on-one relationships. That needn't necessarily be in service to others. It can be in service to yourself. In the face of all that is changing, what can you hold on to? What can you preserve? What can you make last? For Leo, we have the 7 of Swords. And I wish I could say that in a trine to Mars retrograde, I was surprised to see this card here, but I'm not. As I've said often, the 7 of Swords is the card of deception, and it can often be a card of self-deception, or of sort of robbing the past, or the future, excuse me, or both even, enriching the present at the expense of one, the other, or both. But most often the future, right? Robbing the future to make the present better. Settling for short-term gains and positivity for long-term gains and positivity. All of which is to say, Leo, that what you really, really need to do here is think about whether instant gratification is worth it. Being fair in the sense that we've been talking about earlier in the aspect posted throughout all of the readings so far leaves implicit until now the idea that you need to be fair to the future version of yourself, the one that you're handing off the keys to, so to speak. How does instant gratification impact future you, and would it be more worth it to let stuff wait until it was ready? That's a specific thing I'm getting here, is not to do things before they're ready, not to do things too early. Finally, we have Virgo, and we have the 10 of Swords. And, I mean, in the one sense, this could be something as simple as just the end of your season, but based on the experiences of the Virgos I know, this is going to be an unusually rough letting go of the reins. To call you control freaks, Virgo suns, would be inaccurate only because of how unfair it is. Would it be fair to say that most of you prefer to be the ones in control? Yes. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that statement. It's when that desire becomes all consuming. So there's the potential, right, to obsess and nitpick and be finicky, and especially because it feels like something is slipping out of your grasp. Both in the sense of, the solar energy leaving your sign, but also, watch me gesture broadly at the whole world around us, and you'll see what I mean. It is tempting to just pick at every little detail of something, but the easier thing to do would be to let go of those things that you can't control so that you can focus all of your energy, time, and resources on those that you can. It is healthy and necessary to grieve, but sitting with loss for too long can cause you to lose yourself. And it's important to remember that. That is Tarot Tuesday for this week. I sincerely hope that you enjoyed it. Please feel free to let us know what you think. Remember that if you're a subscriber at the Cosmonaut tier or higher on Patreon, you get early access to this video as well as all of our content here at Six Silver Seals. And until next week, I've been Alam. Be kind to yourselves and one another.